In this video, I'm going to go over a timeline of how we were promised the world with Helldivers 2 to having to pay for it. How we went from a game for everyone is a game for no one to literally getting a game for everyone. But before I do that, I do want to say this is going to be my last Helldivers 2 videos for a while, simply because I can't keep up with this. I provide my facts and evidence. I show articles. I show proof. And not only that, most of the time I do link it into the comments section so that you, the individual, can go look up this stuff yourself and form your own opinion. I'm not sitting here saying, trust me, bro, while having some gameplay loop in the background with some sketchy music. No, I'm literally trying to warn people, trying to put the information out there that these mega corporations try to hide. But unfortunately, I'm being met by multi-million-dollar companies spending God knows how much just for bots to come attack me, harass me, and literally try to dox me. Yeah, there have been 2 dox attempts on me. You see, the thing is, though, I'm going through cybersecurity, and I know how to protect myself and identity online. But the majority of people don't. In fact, they don't even teach freaking internet safety anymore in schools in America. So if these people who try to sit there and dox me or take my picture to make a fucking Reddit profile about and start posting with my picture around there, if they're doing that to me, who has a somewhat of voice on the internet, how many people do you think these moderators or all these Tencent / Arrowhead bootlickers buried, who didn't have a voice, who just had to accept that they're 6 feet under the ground and there's nothing they can do about it? Because if they try to break out, well, they're just going to get stomped back down. And that's why I was very upset with the whole Reddit situation, the whole mod drama, because it's not drama. It was straight up an attack. It was an assault, and it was slander. They tried to, well, they didn't try. They succeeded in making me seem crazy and then essentially silenced me so I couldn't talk back about it. In fact, the videos are now also starting to get commented on by said bots sitting there saying, it's just another schizo poster. So, yeah, I just can't keep up with it all. I try to do good for you guys, but I'm one man against a fucking army. I can only do so much. But with that out of the way, let me go ahead and get into this video because we need to start it already. Here. This article, February 7th. Helldivers 2 post-launch content will be free and generous amount is already planned. If you actually read this article, this is basically saying how Helldivers 2 is going to have a lot of free content. And we used to. In fact, the first few months we would get 1 free stratagem and a new war bond. And that happened for a couple of months. Then a shift happened. And here, before we actually get into the shift, this article talks about how this is the Helldivers deputy director discussing war bonds, how they're going to not be pay to win, and they're just going to be different ways to play the game. Except that's not the case, because they literally have items that are necessary for the game. Because when you're playing level 10, what's easier when trying to stop a stratagem jammer sitting there having to fight the automatons off while disabling the jammer, then calling down a hell bomb while fighting off the automatons, pressing the buttons while fighting off the automatons, activating the hell bomb and hoping the automatons don't blow it up after you run off, or just bring a portable hell bomb, run up there, activate it. Even if you get blown to bits, guess what? You took out the jammer. Do you see what I mean? And it's not just that portable hell bomb. There's plenty of examples. And I guarantee you, we probably will have a mech and a war bond soon. So that's depressing just to think about. Because again, we were promised the world. And now we're having to pay for it. And this shift really started when Shams took over. Because, well, you see, Shams, when he joined on May 22nd. And I know, look, it's a gaming journalist site. I know Reddit mods are going to sit there and scream at me that this is fake news because game journalist sites get all their information from Reddit. If you're sitting there saying that's a whole load of bullshit, yes, I agree. But that's literally what I was told by the Reddit mods. So I digress. The thing is, though, if you look to Sham's past, you see that he does have history with Tencent. In fact, it's kind of intricate because he was the person trying to get Tencent to get, well, Stellaris into the Chinese market. Because the Stellaris has over $300 worth of DLC. Helldivers 2 is getting fucking close to that. I don't know, people sit there and say, oh, well, you can get super credits for free, but can you? Because this is what the devs said about super credits. It will take up to 100 hours to unlock Helldivers 2 War Bonds for free. They really thought it would take us between 25 and 100 hours of playtime to get a free battle pass. But the reality was, we got it for like under an hour. Because we used to get 10 to 40 super credits easily on any planet. Then they reworked the POIs, sitting there saying, oh, they're too far apart from one another. And what did they do? Yes, they made them closer, but also fewer. They reduced the size of the map, which reduced the size of how many super credits you could get. Then they started adding level 3 samples or rare samples down to like levels 3 to 5. And guess what? The reason why people couldn't really farm past level 6 for super credits, or why people don't even really run out of their way to go to a point of interest past level 8, is because most of the time you're going to find a rare sample or a weapon, not super credits. Hell, you probably won't even find medals. But again, that's because the devs really thought it would take us this long to get free super credits. So essentially, they had to force us to spend that time by slowly whittling away at how we could get super credits. Now we get into the Tencent whole jiffy. You see, Tencent joined in July 2024. You know when we stopped getting free war bonds? Or not war bonds, stratagems? Because again, we used to get a free stratagem like, I think for the first 3 or 4 months. And then a shift happened. Now, you see, Arrowhead or Tencent, I'm sorry, I confused Tencent and Arrowhead because they practically feel like the same at this point, but I digress. Tencent invested $83 million, literally not even a month and a half after Shams had become CEO. And we already just linked that Shams had quite the intricate relationship with Tencent. And here's the thing, though. For those people saying, oh, how do you know? Here you go. This comes from the Swedish company registration office with Arrowhead Studios. This is the only reason we got this information. Arrowhead didn't tell us. Hell, the only reason we knew that Arrowhead invested, or Tencent invested into Arrowhead, is because they had to release it in their quarterly reports. Now, if they had told us at the beginning that Tencent now owns 15%, almost 16% of the company, I don't think gamers would be happy. That would also ruin the image of being a small indie dev with $83 million in profits just from essentially a buy-in. And here's the thing. Tencent has a known history of doing this shit where they'll do a small buy-in and then buy more and more and more. And sooner or later, those board members get replaced by Tencent ones. And they've already started it because, again, here we have Shin. He is literally from Tencent. He is Tencent's vice general manager. Now, he already has a vote power on the board. When you get on the board of directors, you literally have power. You can even vote out the CEO if you want, if you have enough votes. But here's the thing. They also have the CEO. So Arrowhead has 2 votes on the board. And from what I could gather, there's really only a few members on the board for Arrowhead. Although they don't have it public, you can try and find the high management position people, and there's maybe like 5 or 6. And that's being generous if all of them are on the board of members. The only people we know exactly is Shams, Johan, and Shin. And again, this is how Tencent works. They do a small buy-in, keep buying more, and then eventually just ruin the game so that they can buy it out. If you don't believe me, go look at what happened to Path of Exile 2. Path of Exile 1 was a phenomenal game. But what happened to Path of Exile 2 is Tencent bought them out fully before they even started working on the game. And the game currently is, well, it's kind of dead at the moment because there's no big update. Also, armor is scarce. And the funniest thing is, I have videos showing there's a shitload, a monumental amount of third-party Chinese websites selling currency, armor, and everything you can think of progressing and being a badass character in Path of Exile 2. But the only problem is, in Path of Exile 2, there's no fucking gear that drops. So either you have to struggle throughout the entire game hoping RNG works in your favor to get good gear, because they said that they made Path of Exile 2 because they wanted to make crafting better, except crafting is basically the same from Path of Exile 1. So that was a complete lie. Just like how Arrowhead lies about grunt fantasy. The correlations are there. Tencent are not your friend. Tencent is literally the enemy of the gaming industry. They are just like BlackRock. In fact, they're the Chinese BlackRock. And you want to know something? BlackRock is already scummy enough here in America. They're buying up CEO, or they're buying up YouTubers, because what they're doing is they basically found out that they can manipulate and coerce people or condition them through YouTubers. They basically found a way to market straight to you, and you don't even know about it. Now, if you think BlackRock is bad, Tencent's worse. Because look, they're already changing the game. You see, and again, here's more free stuff, but look, I forgot to mention, when he joined, it's September 10th. Here is the Chemical Agents War Bond that dropped on September 19th. It's just a huge coincidence that a member of the Tencent board joins the company the same month, in literally 9 days before Arrowhead makes a war bond with 2 stratagems in it. What a coincidence, right? There's so many times, you can only have so many coincidences pile up until you realize the room's on fire and everything's not fine. Because it gets worse. You see, Arrowhead kept telling us they didn't want to add nationalities or anything like that because Super Earth is one nation. So why would they add armors that are unique to a certain nation or nationality or whatever? Instead, most of the armor have been based off of, actual other forms of media, like Junsu, or I forgot the name of it. I think it was Junsuno or whatever. Yeah, whatever. Halo, freaking just other forms of media. Until we got trench divers. Look at this armor set. Does it not look familiar? They literally added the Republic of China cosplay into Helldivers 2. They even have the fucking belt. Look at that. So no, to the people sitting there telling me that Tencent has not changed Arrowhead, that's a bold-faced lie. Because not only are they adding China-based armor in the regular war bonds. Not only did they just happen to put stratagems the same month that a Tencent member joins the board of directors for Arrowhead, we also got this. Yes, they have Chinese armor. Chinese New Year armor. All right. You're really going to sit there and tell me that Arrowhead isn't selling out to China? That Arrowhead isn't sitting there basically being pawns of Tencent? Because, again, they told us they weren't going to add any armors or anything that were unique for nationality, only to add 2 separate ones. And then we get to the death threat situation. You see, instead of actually, going through with the charity event, like the person had posted, which would have been the decent thing to do for Arrowhead, because that really would have sat there and told the toxic fan base they're not in control, that they're in the wrong by continuing to do it, to sit there and be like, all right, we're going to continue on for that guy. Instead, they said, no, you know what? The terrorists have won. We're pulling out of Afghan. That's literally what they said. And they gave some bullshit little excuse for it. Then they sat there and said, we're not accepting any more challenges. Because you want to know what? If they had actually done the challenge, it would have been horrible PR. It would have shown that the game is in a horrendous state. That it's buggy and god-awful. So, in all honesty, Arrowhead benefited the most from the challenger being doxxed. And the funniest thing is, I've seen people now sitting there saying this was a hoax. Yeah, they're now trying to push the message that this never even happened. And I guarantee you that is just going to that sentiment is going to grow amongst the Reddit Helldivers, the Glazers. Because, well, the victors write the history. And guess what? Who won? The Glazers. Arrowhead. Tencent. Now this right here, I had never watched this video before, but actually watching it really showed me how much of, Shams is for Tencent. And in fact, if we sit there and talk about how, I'm just going to play this bit for you guys.
Has it been an adventure?
Well, it certainly started very strongly. Johan, who's, I think, stepping away now for a little bit, taking a bit of a sabbatical. Have you managed to successfully keep him away from the running of the studio?
Yes. I mean, Johan and I have known each other for 16 years, and he wouldn't have...
Also, he looks away at one direction a lot. Watch his eyes.
Asked me to join unless he felt, I hope so, he could trust me. So I think we naturally fell into a rhythm of being able to support it.
He's reading a fucking prompt.
Each other. We talk often in role-playing terms, and we're both multi-class, and he's the game designer first and the business person second class, and I'm the reverse. So we kind of find a natural kind of rhythm.
Right there. He's a businessman first, game designer second. You know who else is just a businessman? Tencent. Now, essentially, I'm going to go over the how Arrowhead knows that the harassment situation is bad. You see, I had made this post talking about how Reddit never changed, how the circle of Helldivers repeats. And I literally put in this video that discusses, this is my video that I made, discussing about how the mods at Helldivers Unfiltered know the harassers and attackers. They personally know them. And take a look at this. It was removed by the moderators. But when I asked, what triggered it, they said, oh, your post triggered automatic filters. Except, take a look at this. I made this 1 minute, and not even a minute in. Actually, it was like 2 seconds, boom, it was removed by the filter. Does anything in this sit there say like, oh, that I've triggered any rules breaking or anything like that? No. Instead, Arrowhead knows, and they're actively trying to silence me. Because again, if people knew the connection between Shams and Tencent and how Tencent has actively had influence on Helldivers 2, I don't think the fans would be happy with it. I don't think you would be happy with it. And they know that. And I messaged them. No response. But the moderators here, oh, they sure did. And again, I made these multiple videos here going over, in fact, I had to make a playlist of it. The Helldivers Unfiltered saga, where you can see how I just made a post showing the link between Arrowhead and Tencent. And instead of people questioning it or bringing valid concerns or even criticism about my video, instead, I was just attacked, made to look crazy, and got the post misinformation, even though I provide plenty of information. And the reason why it was misinformation is because they said I used generative AI summaries, but then literally used evidence again. Like, this is how crazy it is, because they went on to use evidence against me, which was a generated AI summary. So the very same thing they sat there and said I was misinformation for was they used also. It was rules of thee, not for me. And it just doesn't make sense. Again, and this is why I have to take a break, because this is what I have to deal with, these people. And they're quite vicious. They're unrelenting. And they fall from Reddit to YouTube to any other form of media. In fact, let's go ahead and see if we can just find the guy who literally has my picture. Like, just straight up my profile picture. Because it's ridiculous. Like, this is what I have to literally go through. Just people just continuously yeah, going on. Or actually, you know what? Why am I doing all this when I literally have it right here? In this video, I literally go through all the harassers. I go through how the harassers talk with the mods, or how the mods will know the harassers by name. But yeah, I got banned, but this person stayed up. In fact, they even made a post where, you're a plant, and that's a sad, sad sandwich, and that's me. But I got banned. I got silenced. So, yeah. I just wanted to make this video and explain why I'm going to have to take a little sabbatical. I need to take some time for myself, because these people aren't changing. They just literally switched up. In fact, that was the whole point of my other post that they took down was, hey, the people that caused harassment on this subreddit just moved to Helldivers Unfiltered. They didn't get banned. They didn't get any form of punishment. They literally just got shuffled around. And the mods know it. And that's why they're sitting there saying, oh, in any case, whatever weird drama you have going on in Unfiltered subs, it's not something we're interested in hosting in our sub. But the reality is, they knew it. They saw it. And they just didn't want people to know that, well, they just shuffled out the harassers from one community to another. Funniest thing is, though, the harassers are slowly coming back to this thread also, which is why they have to tailor make, or that's why they have to continuously delete criticism and everything and silence people. Because if you can't have a voice, then everything's fine. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. That is literally what is happening right now. So if you want to protest Helldivers 2, if you want to protest Tencent, tell them there's no war in Ba Sing Se. make posts about it, flood them with it. Let them know your voice is to be heard. You have a mouth and you speak. You have ideas and you think. You are not just a fucking drone, a payment plan like they want you to be. Now is the time to take out that self-respect, slap it on your chest, and tell Arrowhead to fuck off. Because otherwise, they're just going to get worse. And I guarantee you, somebody's going to get doxxed again. Because, well, they've already tried to do it with me twice. This was the second attempt. So, with that, I'm going to say adieu. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you for all those who have supported me. You guys really helped me get through these last few days. And with that, I say good day.